The Center for Educational Media and the College of Education at Middle Tennessee State University are proud to offer professional development to K-12 educators in Tennessee through our online video library. The following video is presented by the Center for Educational Media in partnership with Professional Educators of Tennessee's Leader U Conference. For more professional development videos, check out our website at cem.mtsu.edu.
Hello. Last session. You did it. Thank you guys so much for coming today. This is college, career, and technical education, crucial for success. I'm always excited to share our CTE story with anyone who will listen. So very, very excited to have you guys with us today. So our objectives, we're going to talk a little bit about career and technical education and how in the state of Tennessee the programs of study have changed from the old school VOTEC to now CTE. We're also going to talk about the importance of CTE as an option for all students in making their choices. I'll show you what a complete CTE program of study is. We'll also talk about the new governor's initiative for our programs of study. And then we'll wind her up with talking about workforce data and career exploration. Through that, I'll factor in all the stuff that Milan is doing. First of all, for those of you that are not familiar with West Tennessee, that is Milan, not Milan. I'm originally from Paris, Tennessee, which means for the first 6 months that I worked there, I got to drive from Paris to Milan every day. So we'll see who is in our audience. How many of you all are administrators? Wonderful, wonderful. Teachers? School counselors? Good. Anybody deal specifically with career and technical education every single day, all the time? Yay, my peeps. All right. We're very, very excited to have you. This is me in 1990. Do the math, that's almost 30 years ago. I went to Henry County High School, walked across the stage, and walked right into basic training for the United States Air Force. And so this picture always brings my students a lot of joy. They think that's really funny. That you look old. Thanks. I'm the CTE director at Milan High School. I've been in that position for a year. Prior to that, I worked for the Tennessee Department of Education as the Director of Student Success. Super vague title, which means that I oversaw all of the CTE programs of study for the state of Tennessee with my team of fantastic people. Came back into the school system because I needed badly to be back on the ground where the people are doing the work. And so I'm very, very excited to be that. Before that, I taught at Henry County High School. I was a business and marketing teacher at Henry County for 13 years. And so my whole career has been about this idea of building skills for students. And so very excited to get to share that with you today. Milan Special School District is in Gibson County, which is in West Tennessee. Gibson County has 5 special school districts. They tell me that there is now a law in the books in the state of Tennessee that no one else can apply for a special school district because of Gibson County. It's not like a super huge county, it's just everybody's got their own way of doing things, and that's how it shook out. So we have 3 schools. We have Milan Elementary, Milan Middle, and Milan High School, and they all are very close together. The whole school system has about 2,000 students, with the high school having just a little over 600 students. Our regional job market, we have a lot of manufacturing in West Tennessee and also a lot of agriculture. Our high school is right next door to the University of Tennessee at Martin's research facility for agriculture, so quite a bit of that going on, just to give you a little bit of the demographics there. So high school registration night. This year I've gotten to be a part of those things, so, you know, when they gather the 8th grade parents into the auditorium or the gym, and we get this kind of nervous look because the baby's going to high school. So we hand them these sheets of papers that are their 4-year plan, and here we go. Together we are going to go through this 4-year plan. And so the school counselors start talking about how many Englishes you need and how many maths you need. And this is when you need to take science, and your social studies need to be here. Here's a fine art. Here's what counts as fine art. You need a PE and a wellness. So the parents are they are on overload. And then you get to what I offer. Our CTE programs of study, which we ask them to choose one as an elective focus. There are words there that the parents don't even know what that means. Electromechanical technology, cool. We'll just circle something for right now. And so what this brings about is this parent in particular is my favorite. You can only see the back of his head, but in the front he has the biggest deer in the headlights look I have ever seen in my life, because we're asking these parents and students to choose programs of study and they have no idea what that even is. Much less, are we asking an 8th grader to pick what it is that they would like to be forever and ever right there on that night. And so this brought about the idea that, I have a lot of parents question this idea of when I was in high school, you picked. Are you going to go CTE or are you going to go the college route? Which one is it going to be? And so I still have parents that come to me adamant it should be one or the other. It shouldn't be none of this frou-frou, it mixes up. That's just not the way it's supposed to be, because this is how it was when I was in high school. And so what I have to explain to them is that today's CTE looks very, very different. It used to be birdhouses and you make a little stool for your mom or something like that. This is what our students built last year, this gazebo for the middle school. That's very intricate woodwork there. We've gone a little bit beyond the days of the birdhouse with real world projects. And when we say things about, now we offer industry certifications, well, that just blows people away, that you can leave high school with a certified nursing assistant certification that's real. Like you can actually go out and use that. It's not a play one. Partnerships with industry and also the college credits that we'll talk about in just a little bit. So why college credits if we're talking about career and technical education? So when I first came to Milan, one of the things that I heard over and over and over again was, we're so glad you're here. So glad you're taking these CTE programs. Everybody doesn't need to go to college. I hear it 5 times a week. Everybody doesn't need to go to college. And I get what they're saying, but I think if we change our definition of what college is, we'll see that everybody probably needs a little bit of it. In that, when we think about the TCATs, the Tennessee College of Applied Technology, right next to that we have Jackson State Community College. These are also colleges. So what we mean, I think, when we say everybody doesn't need to go to college is everybody doesn't need a 4-year university degree. But most of our students need some sort of training, certification, something that happens while they're in high school or right after they're in high school. A little bit more than that high school diploma. So we have the benefit on our campus. TCAT Jackson is about 30 miles away from our high school. And we have 2 of their instructors who come to our campus every day and teach construction and machining programs of study. So the students can actually start as freshmen in starting to earn these TCAT hours. Now, what's fun about that is, first of all, a lot of them don't realize that that's what's happening. And so I'll hear them bebopping down the hallway talking about, I ain't never going to college. Well, you're going right now. You're on your way. You'll be there in 5 steps, as it turns out. Because they think of college as this and not as that. And so what we're having to do also is change the mindset of students as to what college is, preparing them for this skills-based training. Those skills have to come from somewhere in order for them to get this wage that they all believe very heavily that they deserve. So we have that benefit. It's wonderful for us, and we're hoping to continue to grow that. But the idea there being that we all need to make sure that our students have something more than that high school diploma. So in 2012, in the state of Tennessee, our assistant commissioner at the time of college, career, and technical education was Dr. Danielle Mesra. And she had this vision to take the career and technical education programs of study and kind of slim them down just a little bit. So we had several classes that were kind of redundant. We had some that didn't really align to labor market data. Complete rewrite of the standards across the board. And so here's how that factored out. I, at the time, was teaching business. I was teaching computer applications. So computer applications, the list of standards was very much cut and dried. Change font color. Check. I taught them how to do that. It never said anything about when we might want to change the font color, why am I changing the font color, those kinds of things. So across the board, the standards became more contextual as to when and why you would want to do that instead of just a list of skills that you checked off. Now, I happened to get to I was just beginning my time at the Tennessee Department of Education when all of these new standards rolled out. And it was part of my job to go across the state and tell teachers, those standards you've been teaching for 20 years, here's the new ones. It didn't go over very well, and actually in a couple of places I thought they were probably going to key my car before I got out of there because they had those, standards laminated, and here's my lesson plan, and this is how we're doing things. And so when you change it all, people are frustrated. But once they kind of saw the bigger picture, it became something that was easier to work with. So the CTE directors, starting then and still now, are asked to choose programs of study that align to your regional labor market data. So you'll see there the Eiffel Tower. I told you I was from Paris. For those of you that haven't been, there is a real live Eiffel Tower in Paris, and that's it, with a little fence around it. In Paris, Tennessee, how many of you guys have heard of Paris, Tennessee? All right, nice. I taught sports and entertainment marketing for 6 years. It was great. Okay, we did stadium tours, and we built out all the merchandise that you would sell for it. We even built little stadiums for our sports teams and things like that. When we talk about regional labor market data, Paris, Tennessee does not have sports or entertainment. And so this idea that I'm teaching upwards to 70 kids a year about sports and entertainment marketing when there is not a job in the place that you can do that's aligned to that. Really, I'm just sending students out into the world to go find something else to do. I've got them really excited about this, but you can't do that here. So good luck to you, and hope you have fun in college. And so now with this idea that you're asked to choose programs of study that align to things that you can actually do there. It helps students to kind of understand the connection between career and technical education and the labor market. And what happens is it makes it such that CTE, that at one time was kind of your filler between I got English class now and math after lunch, and this is just, I guess, where I'll go in between that. That's not the case anymore. Now it's real world skills that I can see how that's supposed to be used and applied, and how I can use that for my career later on, regardless of which path that I take to get there. So we offer trainings for the next 2 years to prepare teachers for that shift in CTE, and this is one of the main ones. That before, it was kind of okay to pick and choose which classes that you took. But at this time, when they made this change, it became very, very clear that there was a prescribed set of courses and a way that it needed to go. So all of our programs of study have 4 courses. You need in a school system to teach at least 3 in order for your students to be what's called a concentrator, which means they got 3 in an area. And so it's aligned 1, 2, 3, 4, with 3 and 4 having opportunities for dual enrollment if you can make those connections where you are. Industry certifications are also embedded in places where it's felt like by the content experts that a student would be successful in getting that industry certification there. So you see, in this ag engineering program of study, we've got opportunities for multiple industry certifications by the time that they get out the other side. Now, very few schools offer all of these industry certifications in one program of study, but at least we have the opportunity to get students something besides that diploma when they walk across the stage. At the bottom there, you'll see supervised agriculture experience. Those are SAEs. SAEs are the ag version of work-based learning. So this is when I get to go out and use these skills that I learn in ag and can use them in my after-school job. There are little projects students can do to get SAE credit. But that's what Tennessee's vision was, is that it's not just pick and choose buffet style. There's a prescribed path for our programs, and that they are aligned to labor market data. So this came in big with the Drive to 55, Governor Haslam's Drive to 55, that 55% of Tennesseans would have some kind of credential or diploma by the year 2025. And so there's this super cool website that if you guys haven't seen it, it's called jobsfortn.gov. And you can drill down specifically to your county if you want to and pull up the occupational groups and what is needed in your area. You can go as big as you want, the whole state of Tennessee. You can pick a region. You can even drill down to your county. So this happens to be the one for Gibson County. And you can see there that our #1 occupation group is food preparation and serving, because our 2 biggest needs right now are from McDonald's and Sonic. I don't want to prepare kids to stop at the Sonic. So we're looking further on down to those production occupations. I told you earlier that manufacturing is one of our big ones. We try very hard to align our students who want to go straight into the workplace into one of these higher paying, higher skill set jobs. And then comes Governor Bill Lee, who opens up the Governor's Investment in Vocational Education. Okay. Personal note, vocational education is not my favorite phrase and is not across the state of Tennessee, but if he's going to GIVE give some money, well, I will call it whatever. And so what this does essentially is increases the number of dual enrollment courses that CTE students can take. So instead of their 2 normally with the money that they have, this increases 4 CTE classes it up to 4 CTE dual enrollment courses. Now that's not taken effect yet, but it's on its way in, and that essentially allows that student to at least get halfway through a TCAP program of study before they need to go on to something else. Because a lot of times in our CTE programs, there are students there that whatever I get them by the time they get to graduation night is going to be all there is. They don't have student support, they don't have the money or the means to get somewhere else. So it's almost like a fight with the clock that I got to get them as much as I can get them before it's time to graduate, because that will be most likely the end of it in some situations. And so Governor Bill Lee did this to address the gaps that are in the workforce. If you were in Dr. Jackson's keynote this morning, he talked about that as well. There are baby boomers that are retiring that have these skill sets, and in a lot of instances, there are not people to backfill those jobs. Which maybe you're not worried about until it comes time to build a house, or your plumbing goes out, or your HVAC goes out, and it's August in Tennessee. That's when it becomes very real that we need people in these skill sets. A couple of years ago, I was in Missouri, and they were talking about this same kind of thing, this labor market crunch, and there were housing projects that had to be postponed because there wasn't enough labor force to go ahead and take care of those things. So that's something that we want to get in the front end in Tennessee so that we don't have that. Tyson Foods announced last year that they are moving to Gibson County, and they're going to need 1,600 workers of different kinds of, there's some ag there, there's some industrial maintenance there. The 1,600 workers that they need are not currently in Gibson County. And so what we have worked very hard to do is create a partnership with them such that we can have those industrial maintenance people trained from our school system so that they're ready to go right on in to the workforce at that time. The other thing though, the other part, when you start training workforce and industry sees it, there currently aren't places for those people to live either, which means that our construction will go up. You think about healthcare, childcare. When someone moves in that's got that kind of hiring capability, sort of all boats rise as to what is needed in the area. And so that's something that we're working on right now. Tyson is set to open their first facilities in the fall of 2020. And so we are working diligently to see how we can help to make sure that that happens. Industrial machinery is what they would like from us, and you'll see there in the state of Tennessee, those wages are very good. It's a skill set that not a ton of people have, and so if you have it, you're in a good place to start talking about what it is that you want your wages to be. Your average annual wage there, my goodness gracious, I don't know how long you guys had to teach before you hit that. But that's a great annual wage, and if we can get them trained in those kinds of things, or at least to that entry level mark before they leave high school, then we leave them in a good set. Okay, I told you I'd show you the complete program of study, and this is what it looks like. This is from the Tennessee Department of Education's materials. So that first part is career exploration and making sure that our students know what it is that they want to do, want to be. And this is something that has kind of been lacking traditionally in Tennessee school systems. There are some systems that do it very, very well. But in a report on career readiness for this spring, they said that that might very much be part of the reason that the cycle of poverty has gotten kind of out of whack. Because for a long time in a lot of Tennessee schools, it was, we're all going to four-year, we're all going to four-year. Well, if you're not in that boat, then you're just kind of standing over here, not being the guy that's going to the four-year, which leaves you kind of at a loss for what it is that you're going to do. And so those students, if you don't have that preparation, and then you walk across the stage at graduation into nothing, that leaves you here in this cycle of poverty. So our hashtag at Milan has become a path and a plan, that we want all of our students to leave with a path that's clear and defined and a plan for how they're going to get there. And my goal is to get as much of that before graduation as is humanly possible so that we can get the rest of it done. So this brings about this need for career exploration, which was also in the state of Tennessee traditionally has been done in a very broad manner. So it's sort of just whatever you want to be, career exploration. I joke that, some of those kids that want to be oceanographers, I don't want to crush that dream. But in West Tennessee, that job's not really kicking right now. There's not a lot going on in the oceanography market there in Milan. The other thing is, how much money are you going to make? Are you looking at something that's a very skilled, in-demand job? When I was 8 years old, I used to make my grandfather have a meltdown because I told him for about 2 years that I was fairly sure I wanted to be a rodeo clown. They got makeup, they get to hang out at night with the horses. No. I told that one time at a training, and a guy came up to me after and was like, my whole family's rodeo clowns. And I was like, can I just go too? I would like to go as well. But we would need it to be specific to the state of Tennessee when we're talking about career exploration. What can we do here? And then also, how do you get there? What are the different post-secondary offerings that you can talk about? Because this last year, I got to go into the middle school. I told you we had one. We got one middle school, so it's very easy for me to drop down and do some career exploration. And in talking to them about colleges, I said, tell me the names of colleges that you know. What are the top two, do you think? UT? Alabama. There they were. Those are the two colleges. There's two. And you can go to either one of them. But when I say things about TCAT, just nothing. Never heard of that. Community college, I think one student had a sister that was in one. Never heard of these things. And that was in the 8th grade. So in thinking about, what there is for post-secondary offerings, if you're not, UT or Bama, what do you do? And so, and then that mention of the high school preparation that you'll need to get there. Also didn't have really a set idea of what it was as far as high school programs of study that could lead them there. When I asked for what businesses they knew about in Milan, this is Milan's premier dining facility, the Chow Wagon. The kids said that, Walmart and the Dollar General. Those are the businesses that are in Milan. Well, we actually have quite a bit of manufacturing, but unless your parents work there or you know somebody that works there, all you know about are the businesses that you go to on a regular basis. The Chow Wagon, Walmart, and the Dollar General. And so we did this series of, I just found a career exploration survey, and the source is down there. It's youcangoto.org. And it's a very simple career interest survey that gives them 2 choices, and you just circle which one you would rather do. And then at the end of it, it aligns to 3 different career cluster areas that the students can, based on what they entered up there, it looks like they might have an interest in. And so it was very, very interesting to watch that happen because some students got to the end and the career clusters and the jobs that were aligned to what they picked, there were several students that had no idea what that even is. And so once I kind of stopped and explained it to them, they're like, oh, that sounds neat. And so this was the beginning of our career exploration at the middle school, from which I built some of the other activities off of that we'll talk in just a little bit. I have since learned that interest inventories, sometimes, especially for females and minorities, do not point to things that they actually might be good at. So interest inventory versus aptitude inventory, very, very different things. So, I tell people that I like kayaking and riding horses, but I can't find the career just yet that falls into that. So my interests and then the aptitude might lead me to very, very different sets of careers. College for TN is something that we all have at our disposal. And what this allows you to do is work with, there's a middle school section and a high school section, and allow students to take this hybrid of interest and aptitude surveys to kind of help point them in the right direction. And then as a blessing, it also tells you where you can take those different programs of study. And all the options are there. It's not just straight four-year universities. The community colleges and those things are there as well. So my little piddling down there at the middle school has led to this year they're offering a full-blown career exploration course. And so what we're going to do is every week is essentially a different program of study that we offer at the high school. And they're going to do a little bit of research. They're going to get to have some activities. Because Milan is a very close-knit community, I'm able to bring in some industry people that can actually talk to them about those programs of study. This was a construction project that we did. The students had to build a tower using jelly beans and coffee stirrers and toothpicks. And what they had to do was not just build the tower, they had to design it first, build a materials list, come to see me at the store with their materials list, and then build their projects. And they got so very excited, like, look at that kid's face. You don't see that really in the high school level a lot. So it was neat to be there with them and just to see the excitement of getting to talk about these things. This was an example activity. I found out in being there that the Captain Underpants series is huge in the middle school. They're loving it. I don't know if you guys have read it. But we brought in kind of as a criminal justice activity this idea of somebody's taken all the Captain Underpants books out of the library. And so I give everybody clues and they have to come together and find out what's a fact and what's an opinion and then build out what they think happened. And so you'll see there in the activity, I'm hitting things that I think they're interested in. Fortnite is the name of my middle school. And my goodness gracious, that got half of them hooked right there. Fortnite Middle School, that would be awesome. Regional workforce data in career exploration is super important because once again, we want to make sure that we're preparing students for jobs that are going to be there. So we've all heard this thing about the jobs that we're preparing students for are not even there right now. I stay on the Occupational Outlook Handbook so much that I'm going to know when it shows up, and I'll tell you guys, I'll tweet it out. I'll send it out to the world. They're here. There are standard occupational classification codes. They're called SOC codes. And every single career cluster has a SOC code. So the first two-digit number is the bigger career cluster code. And then it drops down smaller into the different subsections of that. So we see that over here, 15 is computer and mathematical occupations. Well, our 15 with the four-digit codes after it are all the different jobs that you can have under that 15 classification. This very much helps in research and finding, if we're talking about computers and you go deeper into the research, you find that programming is really not something that there's a huge call for. But if you get into things like cybersecurity and coding and those kinds of things, the numbers bump up. So if you want to get specific about what it is that your town or region needs, that's how you do it. You look for those SOC codes first and then dig a little bit deeper into those things. There's also a website out there that's part of the Bureau of Labor Statistics called Career One Stop. This is super great if you're doing career exploration activities in your classroom because it's very, very student friendly. They can go in and see, pick their region, pick what it is that they want to do. So this is projected employment for computer and information research scientists. And so it tells you how many jobs there currently are how many there's projected to be in 10 years, and then where you can go to train for jobs like that. So it's all in one place, makes it super easy for students to kind of tell what it is that they need in order to prepare for those things. There's also a ton of resources that are very, very school friendly on the Bureau of Labor Statistics. How do you spend your time? What's my job? Productivity, choosing a career, what's a dollar worth? All those cool things that students just need to know in order to be successful after they leave high school. We also take students to the careers. So for a while we were doing the career fairs where I would bring the workers and the employers and the HR people to the gym, and students would walk around and learn those things. Okay, but I was finding that first of all, when you put 200 8th graders in the gym, that's a recipe for disaster. There's more poking each other really than there is worrying about who's there to talk. And so this year we did what we called it Choose Your Own Career Adventure. And what we did was, based on their interest inventories, the students were allowed to choose one of 7 buses. And each of the 7 buses was aligned to a particular career cluster. And so on the day that when it showed up, the 7 buses rolled up, the students had their number of what bus they were supposed to get on based on their career interest, and they had no idea where it was going. So it's got a little bit of magic bus element there also, which was great. They visited one educational facility that trains in that area. So there was TCAT, community college, and 4-year in the mix. And then they also visited at least 2 places where they do that job in the area. And so this student, this is particularly interesting because this student is kind of he's the fidgety one in the back of the class that has 9 million questions and needs to go to the bathroom about 10 times and is talking all the time and throwing his pencil. So he got so engaged in this. This is at an engineering and manufacturing facility. Front row, asking the questions, clearly engaged in things. I want you to look at his teacher's face. She's so excited. He has questions and they're relevant. Thank you for not throwing things. But he got back and he was like, yes, I found it. This is what I want to do. Please tell me like what kind of math classes, because that guy was talking about I need a specific kind of math if that's what I'm going to do. Let's get me signed up for that. That kind of engagement works so much better than just sending them through the gym. And all I had to do was call in those partnerships with our friends in Milan and pay for some buses. Everything else just kind of worked itself out. We took the school lunch in a bag, put it in some coolers on the bus. Doesn't cost much and allows students to see firsthand what's out there. This is Madison. Madison is a graduate of Milan High School. She was the 2016 Skills USA Automotive and Collision Repair Paint State Champion. So that's what she does, is she paints. That's her little truck there in the blue that she did. She has won all sorts of awards. She's a catalog model for one of the paint companies now there and those kinds of things. What I told them that her facility, her new business, was one of the stops on the tour for automotive. First of all, look at all the guys that signed up. She's just beautiful, and so they're all like so ready for her just to say words. Tell me how you do it. But also an interesting thing that's happened is my female population in collision repair has shot up because they all want to be the next Madison. And in fact, we have at Milan High School the 2019 Skills USA Collision Repair Paint female finalist, and so it just keeps kind of rolling out. But she's a local celebrity, and so I just called her and said, can we come see you? And she was more than happy to do that. So definitely call in those partnerships. So who needs to know this information? Well, pretty much everybody that's a stakeholder in the school system. The students need to know that those things are available, because I don't want to hear a student get to senior year and say, I had no idea that any of this was an opportunity for me. Because maybe I was seen as someone that was supposed to be on this road and I really needed some of the parts on this road. Parents, my goodness, as a manufacturing place, we have a lot of parents that say, absolutely not, my baby is not going into manufacturing, because they're thinking old school, yucky, gross manufacturing, when in actuality there's a lot of IT and it's super clean. My goodness, you could eat off the floor in some places. Counselors as well. Teachers, administrators, because like I said, this is graduation night this year. That sweet baby right there, I had time to get her what she needed to before she got across the stage, because that's going to be about the end of it. So how do I let all these stakeholders know? I tell everybody all the time. So I made a deal with the local newspaper that if they'll let me write it, they can put whoever's name on it. If they'll just print it, I'll save them the time. I'll write it my own self. And they took me up on that. And so pretty much every week we have something in the newspaper about something our students have done or something we're offering now. I also tweet like crazy, to the point where my friends make fun of me every time I pick up my phone. Oh, she's tweeting. Oh, she's tweeting. But what this has done for us is gotten very much, there's a lot of community recognition. They know what we're doing. We've had a lot of donations. We've had a lot of people say, hey, you know, I can be a guest speaker if you want me to come. I've had people say, you know, do you have any students that are graduating this year? Because I'd like to go ahead and get them started working at my place now. If you let people know, there's a much more likely chance that they're going to want to be part of that with you. So allow for college credit and industry certifications in high school. We talked about that. These are all of the EPSO opportunities that we have right now. And so what I wanted to draw your attention to is that our TCAT programs of study, they're done completely through TCAT in those areas, so that when they get out, they can roll right on over into the TCAT to finish up those programs of study. Everything else is pretty basic. You guys probably have those as well, but we're very proud of that partnership with TCAT. This is Michael Webb. He is one of our top 10. He is in our machining technology program of study, which is very interesting, usually in CTE, because a lot of times top 10 students aren't really the ones that get pushed into CTE programs of study. He is brilliant, and he took his Certified Production Technician certification, which is actually 4 tests. This is him holding his number to go in and take number 4, because he was gonna be done with that. He is not your traditional, what you would think of as CTE. He very often comes to class with his 34 ACT and sits next to a 15 ACT. And they're working on things, and his is for a very different reason. And that very different reason is that he's an engineering physics major going into Murray State this year. And he just won an $81,000 scholarship at Murray State University for that. And part of the reason was he could say, I already have this industry certification. And he'll tell you himself, I just wanted to learn the foundations of it, so that when I go into the physics side of it, I understand the production side as well. This is huge. My goodness gracious, especially coming out of Milan to talk those numbers, that's a great big deal. So this idea of CTE for all, that it's not, oh, you're going straight to the workforce, so you need to go this way, and you're going to college, so you need to go this way. That's no more. It's very much that if I'm going to a 4-year university, that's fine. It's great if I have a lot of foundational information when I get there, so I can just sort of breeze through those courses. Kylie, his sister, there is also a CTE student. She won a $35,000 scholarship to Murray State, got billing below her brother. She's still mad about that. But she is in SCCLA, and she, woo, woo. She went this year to compete. She wants to be an elementary education major. And so she went to FCCLA, where she can compete in elementary education. And so she did just that and won first place in the state of Tennessee, which she can also add to her resume. Not only, you know, have I taken all the Englishes and maths that I need to, and I've got my dual enrollment, I'm also first place in the state of Tennessee in the very thing that it is that I want to go and do. Now that happens for Kylie because Kylie's going to Murray State. This is Haley. Haley is I said earlier, we have the female 2019 winner. There she is. So I tweeted her when it popped that she won first place, and then look at the tweet that got back. So Jeff Sisk is the president of TCAT Jackson. And so there's her full ride right back. She wasn't going anywhere. And now she's got this. Right after that happened, TCAT Chattanooga was on site and said, no, you can come here if you want to, and then Lincoln Tech picked it up also. She has like 4 full ride scholarship opportunities because of a CTSO and a tweet. So I would definitely recommend, if you're not on Twitter, and you don't have to pay attention to all the rantings of people's political, just show your kids, because it makes a great big difference. So there's several different CTSO opportunities out there. They are all fantastic, all phenomenal, and all something that all students need to be a part of because of that networking connection and their abilities to go out and really have some meat behind what it is that's on their resumes. This is what it looks like when you go to DECA. So DECA is the marketing organization. And so what happens is you pick your event, and that's just a little list of the events over there. So they're fairly serious event names. You come in, they give you a scenario. You have about 10, 20 minutes to work up your answer to the scenario, and then you go present it to people that are actually in that field. So that's very real, regardless of what your route is. Those are very real experiences for students. We add to that with additional leadership opportunities. At this point in the game, my students are so well versed on what it is that is our mission that I just get out of the way. If the news comes, if there's an opportunity to do a tour, those kinds of things, I just back up and let them have it. They are my CTE ambassadors. This year we're going to call them influencers because they like that because it's an Instagram word. But they all want that opportunity to give back to the younger students and their communities as well. Work-based learning is very much a part of this model. And so there's several different kinds of work-based learning. We still have the old school co-op. We still have the kids that are going to McDonald's. That's been a fight that I'm just not gonna, we'll just do it. If that's what they wanna do, then by all means I wanna get them some extra hours for those kids that need it. But we also have clinical internships and nursing education. So this is our pinning ceremony for our students who are about to take their CNA certification because they've just finished their nursing education hours. Project-based learning as well, and partnerships with local business. We have local business that comes in and works with us to develop projects in the classroom that are very much like what they could do there, which works well in manufacturing because I can't get my students in on the manufacturing floor a lot of the times because I have to be 18 in some instances to do that. So I just reverse it. We bring business to us. That brings about this idea of some real world creations. Once they start talking to industry partners and finding out all the cool things that are happening in the industry. This is Sutej. He knows how to work our 3D printer almost better than the instructor. And he designed this Game of Thrones chessboard as his senior project. It's not done, the floor of it's not in there just yet, but when I came in and saw like where he designed it on the computer and how he had printed them out, he said it took a long time, like 2 weeks. And I was like, that would take me the rest of my life to come up. But that's something that, you know, he can show that to anybody. And so when we have groups of manufacturers that come through, I always point at, you know, come show us what you're doing this week, Sutej, because that's pretty amazing, and the students get to show their work as well. This year we implemented an interview boot camp. And the reason for that is as part of our work-based learning, going out into the community, I went in to talk to that group of students and said, we're going to create a resume and a cover letter, and then we're going to go through a little bit of the interview process. So the cover letter and the resume were templates. Like all you had to do was select it and type in what your education level was and those kinds of things. About half the students turned around and went right to work. The other half of the students looked at me like they had no idea what I was talking about. Template, cover letter, for what? Attach it to a What I found was that a lot of our students are called, you know, this tech generation, but the tech is like Snapchat. It's not the kind of tech that you need in order to go and get a job, in order to be successful at post-secondary. And so that became something that our teachers became very diligent about, is making sure that they know that they leave with a good resume and a cover letter. And this idea of the interviews, these are not teachers. These are people from out in the community, which add an extra level of scary, apparently. But you had to dress, you had to come in with your resume, and then you have to talk to these people. And in listening to the interviews, they were very serious interviews. So we piloted it last year with about 2 classes. This year, all of our seniors who take CTE classes will be part of this, because I think that's, regardless of where you're going, once again, there's a lot of scholarship interviews out there you got to be awesome for as well. They need this experience and to know how to be able to do that. This is the template that I gave them for, and asked them to fill it in. I even gave them some examples down here. There were some students that just had no idea even where to start with this. And so now at least we'll get some of them going out the door being able to do that. Also, this idea of communicating with people who are in positions of power. My ex-husband is a National Guard recruiter, and one of his first recruits sent him this text. And he got the text and he hands the phone to me and he goes, "What?" I said, "I'm gonna need a ride." That's not how you communicate with people that are especially in the military, for crying out loud. And so what we want to do is kind of have these conversations, because very much like what we were talking about with career exploration, they're going to mimic what they see with parents and people in their family. And if that's how a parent communicates with a boss or someone they need to talk to, why wouldn't the student do it that way? I heard an employer say one time that there were 2 different great stories for interviews. One student came in and she was wearing a prom dress to her interview. And so he, tried to make calm face about it. I was like, is that your prom dress? And she said, "Yeah, my mom said it was real important that I dress nice." Well, that's what dress nice is. It was the prom dress. The other story goes in another direction, and that was the student came in to get an interview, and it was a good interview. It was we're going to give you the job and pay for your college and. Went in wearing cat ears. Well, cat ears, you don't want to limit someone's personality. I got my cat ears on, and he was like, no, that's not even the worst part. Like, she brought her boyfriend with her, and I was like, okay. And I was like, but as long as he was quiet out there, and he goes, no, not out there. She brought her boyfriend in with her to the interview wearing the cat ears. Things that we don't always say out loud. Please don't go to the interview wearing your cat ears and leave your boyfriend in the car, if you don't mind. Just little things. But think about in your career and education, how much have you said to students things like that? Like, we just sort of have this expectation that they know how to do that part, and it's not the case with all of them. We also celebrate our everybody. TCATs have their own signing day, but we like to have our very, very own where we celebrate our students going to TCAT. This is also a marketing tool that we use to show other students that TCAT is very much an option for them. So these are students who have already taken classes on our on-site TCAT classes and are now moving on to the next phase. The guy in the middle is not a student. That's the TCAT vice president. All right. So ACTE is our Association of Career and Technical Education, and they did a story on Milan High School in the May issue called A Path and a Plan, which kind of documents what it is that we do in our connections to industry. So we're very, very excited to have that available to our community and to our students. So what does it take in order to do things like that? Well, I walked into a fantastic situation in that my director of schools is in his 3rd year and is very much minded on what are we going to do for all of these students. The hashtag A Path and a Plan is actually his. He wants to make sure everybody leaves with something that they can go on and do, especially in Milan, where it seems like for a long time people have either moved out somewhere else, they go on to a bigger city, or they stay there and kind of, exist in poverty. And we don't want that for our students. So the administration has got to have no kind of prejudice on this idea of it's one path or it's the other path. Or else if we get stuck in this sort of, these kids are moving away and these kids can just go to Sonic and work out there for just a little while. That takes a bigger picture also in that you've got to get principals on board, you have to get the counselors on board with that as well, and make sure everybody knows that we don't look in, a student walks in, we immediately judge where that person is going to go, and then we assign their classes based on what we decided. I showed you my basic training picture. That was my first choice. I wanted to go in the military from the very beginning because my grandfather is a World War II veteran, and I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. I also wanted to get out of Paris, Tennessee. I was the kid that wanted to go, and so that was the option that I chose. So I went to the school counselor's office. Now, this was a very long time ago. I'm sure it does not happen like this anymore, but I went in and said, I want to join the Air Force. And she said, well, come back when you have a different plan because you're a female and that's not what we're going to do for you. Awesome, thank you very much. And so I went and kind of held on to that thing by myself. But she didn't ask, like, why do you want to go and what do you expect out of it? I was kind of miffed when I got there and found out about officer training, and that was a way that I could have gone to get my college side in it as well. But you know, we can't as adults make the decisions. We can guide and direct, but we can't decide, I know this kid's mama, he's not going to be anything. Let's just put him here and it'll be fine. We got to help to break those cycles. All adults need to assist in the career exploration activities. One, so that they can help be another voice out there, because school counselors cannot, I don't care how many hours a day you give them, they cannot come up with these plans for everybody in depth. So if we have all the adults working on those kinds of things, second of all, it's good that they know. Our career and technical education teachers have a good understanding of what it is that students need to do in order to get these degrees that they want or get this training that they want. But I don't know if it's the same across the board. I don't know if, do our English teachers know what the opportunities are at TCAT? And so we're trying to open those opportunities as well. So much so that if you have the time when school starts back in July and August, those first couple of days in in-service, even if you just had 2 hours, this year our principal had a 2-hour block that he had not filled time for, and I was like, can I have the teachers, please? And he's like, yeah, go ahead. And so we brought all of our general education teachers over to the career and technical education side, and they got to participate in activities that our CTE programs have. So I have a great picture of our English teacher, our AP English teacher, welding. Works for her because she has a picture of it, which she thinks is super cool. But then when those kids come to her classroom or in one of her classes, she can say, hey, I went out there and I got to weld and here's my picture. And then she becomes cool on a whole nother level because she went out to go see what it is that the students are doing. So it works on several different levels. Business leaders, most of the time, once they find out you don't want money, will be very helpful in giving their time or expertise to help you with those kinds of things. So I always make it very clear, I need your brain, I don't need your money. I just need to know how your experience works. And then that adequate technology must be in place for student practice, which is another thing that maybe, as far as talking about technology and those kinds of things, the students that have computers in the classroom, maybe you're a one-to-one school, I always ask our teachers to make sure that they're using that for practices that will happen in post-secondary and in the workplace. If our English teachers use it to write their, APA style essay, that's wonderful, but let's make sure that we're using it for other things that can be used in the workplace, like these resumes. This is also a Twitter. We have Trainer Tuesday when the students in construction and machining get to use the trainers. And then TCAT Jackson is always very nice to kind of tweet back and say that's what happens at the high school when you have administrators who think outside of the box. Because this idea of what high school looks like is very much going to have to change if we are going to have this workforce that's able to meet the needs of the community. When you think about CTE, you're thinking about the nurses and the police officers and the construction workers and the teachers. You're thinking about the plumbers. You're thinking about the doctors. You're thinking about all these things that without it, society crumbles. So the idea that there was a time when we were leading only the students who we feel like can't do into these areas is kind of baffling to me, because that's really the framework for our whole society. So things to definitely think about. This is my contact information. If you want to contact me, come see us. I'd love to come see you, whatever it is that you want as far as your career and technical education needs. I would definitely love to come and help in any way that I can. All right, we're a little bit early. Is that okay? All right, thank you so much.